unmute, people can hear us. Hey, Jimmer.
Well, hi there, Nonsense. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm here with Megaphone.
Hi.
Well, hello there, Megaphone. Happy day to you both.
I heard that you're officiating a wedding sometime soon.
Yes, yes, I'm very happy about that.
Are you excited?
I am. It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
You ever officiated a wedding before?
I have not.
Well, this is going to be
Cool.
exciting and special.
Did you get ordained in the
Universal Life
Universal
Church?
Ministry?
I did. I have been official since 2006.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm since 2013. I get an annual email congratulating me on my ordination.
Nice.
Such a long time ago, I have no proof that I haven't signed up.
Oh, wow. Before
Ah.
some sort of digital transition into a new database.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm also similarly without that database attachment because I don't get the emails. Good
Oh.
afternoon, Marley. How are you?
Maybe they're still getting ready. Yeah.
Mute, perhaps? Yeah. Yeah. Good day there.
Hey, folks.
Yeah.
Sadly, I just got paged, so I'm going to deal with some work stuff while I'm on here and hope it doesn't go too escalating.
Hello.
Yeah, happy day.
It's a very boardful board meeting currently.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You may not have just heard. I just got paged, so I'm gonna stay on but deal with whatever
Okay.
is going on.
Good times. Let us know if you need to drop.
Yeah, who knows? But
Michael and Josh are also here.
Hello.
Hello. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Josh, I appreciated what you said on the post today. I'm very much looking for that kind of natural feedback that really sort of feeds the energy of things.
Oh, your Facebook question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, happy to help.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What? That's confusing. Megaphone
Having-
is here twice.
Yes.
Let me recount while deconfusing myself. 1, 2,
It's a Hydra.
6, 7, 8.
I think we've proven now that Feynman truly is the Borg, as this error 404 is now registering.
What?
Good times.
There's 10 of us.
Are there 10 of us?
This might be the first time
Wow.
in like my entire tenure that I've seen 10 board members. Yay, new team.
10
Yeah.
years.
There are some things about 2025 that I really enjoy, and most of that's your fault. Everyone
Ew. Thank you.
knows.
I can only count 10.
1, 2.
I mean 9.
That's okay.
Wow. 1,
Leeds
2,
is not here.
Laura, there's 10.
10.
Yeah.
Did you count yourself, Feynman?
Just
I-
count all the
yes,
boxes
1.
minus Josh.
I don't count.
And
right.
yeah.
That's
Jesse's here.
right.
Right.
Jesse-
Oh, good point. I take it back.
Yeah, but there's 10.
Josh is non.
There's 11 people in the meeting minus 2.
No,
Yeah,
but
it's
there's
9.
2 people.
No, there's
I
two.
know, but one of them
Megaphone
signed
box.
in and the other one signed in.
Oh, you're right. It's 9.
I mean, it's fine. We're waiting for Tuck. I mean, we're not waiting. We've got a quorum
Yeah.
and it's 7:01, so let's go.
Let's go.
All right. So, let's do liaisons. DPW. No DPW. Stewardship. No stewardship. Rangers. No Rangers.
I'm here, but I don't have updates.
Ah, okay, great. Thank you, Winter.
Ranger.
Ranger. Critical reboot. You're up.
Oh, that was fast. Okay. Yeah. So some people, including Spacement and DPW and myself, visited the Masonic Family Park last weekend, and we scouted the lower loop and we investigated the possible parking expansion regions, and we took notes and we took measurements and we stroked our tents and said, yes. And DPW is going to come back to us with a work and cost estimate, and that will be happening this coming weekend at their retreat. So that should not be too much longer. And we will use that to inform our decision about how much parking we want to plan on adding this year. And that in turn will inform our decision about how many new tickets we want to sell. So that is the big thing that's happening.
Great. Questions before we move on? Continuing on, making record time. Let's do minutes real quick. So I know the special meeting minutes are in the drive. I am not clear on whether January's meeting minutes are in the drive.
They are not. Can we push this back until I'm able to copy them? I've had internet issues.
Sure. Yep, that's fine. We'll come back to minutes. New items at 7:04, y'all. 7:04, new business. So bylaws edits, Jimmer and Magic want to discuss. I have thoughts, but not to clarify, thoughts on how to cross the finish line, not resistive thoughts. Anybody want to talk?
Sure. I can start unless you want to, Jimmer.
I will welcome your voice, and perhaps all will be said and all will be well.
Yeah. So status quo bylaws are a document in Google Drive that's pretty hard to read, very hard to copy from because lines and I don't know, a bunch of weird stuff. And we just haven't touched the bylaws in 7 years. So I think mostly I'd like to just kick the tires on amending the bylaws with this proposal. What it is a formatting fix with zero actual changes to the effects of the bylaws or semantic differences, just formatting and putting it in Google Drive so that we can have version history and can copy and paste and refer to the bylaws more easily. There's a table of contents too. I would like to discuss it, I guess, but I intend to have a motion or to second a motion to accept these bylaws.
Cool. So I took a look at the bylaws and then I took another look at the bylaws today and noticed that the version that I reviewed then, which was a named version, has changed since then, which causes me to pause. I think it would be neat if we had a PDF export, say, that was the authoritative source that we got everyone's eyes on and said, this is the instrument that we'd like to review and approve. Otherwise, I'm worried that we've got skew in terms of who reviewed when. Magic, go ahead.
My proposal is for the January 16th version that doesn't have any semantic changes, I believe. The February 1st version has semantic changes, like changing to budget stuff. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to read it, but yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Which is kind of why I wanted to use the named versions.
Reboot.
Not to nitpick, when you say no semantic changes, are you saying there are no textual changes at all? Or are you saying you're rephrasing things, but the semantics remain the same?
There are changes of numbering and including like depth numbering or multiple layers of numbering, numbered lists. I think there's one place where I moved a sentence so that it was consistent under a different heading. The February 1st version has changes to budget. Consent for spending 500 instead of 200, which I'm not proposing, but Jimmer can make that case if he wants to. I was just going for exactly the same meaning, but formatted and referable.
If I may, yeah. To the effect, for those who aren't familiar and for those who are, that particular 500, the numeral, it is because the same topic is discussed two places in the same, in the document, and it had two different numbers. One of those numbers was 200, one of those was 500, and the 500 would allow for more flexibility than the 200. And since it was an obvious error of some sort at some point, this is sort of ironing out a wrinkle.
A couple things. The mid-January proposal also ironed out that wrinkle, and it ironed it out in the direction of less approval required. At least I believe that was the intention by going with 200 in both places. It, in my experience, is rarely the case that we do any check signing without explicit approval. And my read is that these read on check signing, not the often confused issue of the board member discretionary budget line items that we have by recent tradition been writing into the budget, which is sort of a, well, not sort of, that I don't need a weasel word there. It's an entirely separate thing that the bylaws don't read on at all. Marley?
I'm going to say that because there have been changes, and I don't necessarily, well, I mean, you know, my thought on this. I don't necessarily think that it's immaterial about the 200 versus the 500 and the fact that it's in two different places. I think this probably should be tabled or at least revisited before we vote on it.
I think that it's trivial to interpret conflict of a maximum of 200 and a maximum of 500 on very similar topics to be globally a maximum of 200, which is why I set it to that. And like Feynman said, I don't think I've ever observed this to be used. And I would prefer we just generally go through the normal budget voting process.
I am not
But-
attached to the 5 at all, by the way. It was spoken to me by somebody else that there might be a reason for that. And if that is not brought up with more energy, then I'm not going to press the point with an issue.
Okay. Well, I propose a motion to accept the January 16th, 11:31 a.m. version, which has only formatting changes as the most recent bylaws.
Seconded.
I had one more discussion point, but I did hear the motion in the second, so I'm exercising right to debate. The reboot to add my take on the answer to your question about semantics. It definitely, like, there were no wording changes. So the claim is not we changed the words, but we claimed that they meant exactly the same thing as they meant before. It was numbering. It was things that attorneys have been known to argue about. There was at least one insertion of an Oxford comma. I looked at that clause and it didn't look like it was the kind of, to my lay eye anyway, it didn't look like the kind of thing that I've seen attorneys argue about, having two different interpretations with or without an Oxford comma. So yeah, like no semantics, I think kind of means like it was punctuation formatting with an intention of changing literally nothing about what the bylaws enable. Reboot, go.
Nothing other than resolving a dispute between dollar amounts, which I would argue is a semantic change.
To that effect, there were a lot of spelling errors that somehow had flowed in, which were some of the highlight points that took time to get into. So that is actually one of the energy points that time was spent on. Somehow, somewhere along the line, the spelling of shun, like attention, relation, that kind of shun, that secondary thing, lost pairings of letters, and so there were like really odd errors sprinkled throughout. So that was kind of our impetus to just sort of clean it up. And so the 200 500 it really is, like Feynman said, something that has never been a discussed issue before. It was just sort of noticed as a quirk of dual numbers for the same reason. So we just figured to get them similar because they were talking about the same thing.
Marley.
That's not accurate. It has been discussed before. It came up in my first term. The 200 versus 500 is the board's discretionary amount and how much a board member can spend. So the amount that a board member could spend and or write checks for without approval was 500 during my first term, and now it's 200. And we actually had this exact discussion 3 years ago and went through this entire process. So part of what bothers me is that the board 3 years ago went through this, had this discussion, resolved it, and now at this point it's coming up again as we're having this discussion. It supposedly never happened before, but now we're deciding on 200 as non-semantic and having these two issues. My comment that I made a while back is what happened to the documentation of this discussion? And there's a whole longer issue. Sorry, I'm at the airport. But there's a whole longer issue of where's the documentation of that discussion and the previous version of the bylaws that we went through. So that's where my issue is, and it's being ignored and saying that we never had this discussion before.
So I pasted the text in dispute in meeting chat. I'll read it for those who don't have it on their screen. One of them says, all checks, drafts, notes, or other obligations for the payment of money shall be signed by such one or more officers or agents as the board shall direct. Provided, however, that any expenditure or obligation of the corporation in excess of $500 shall be unauthorized and invalid unless first approved by resolution of the board of directors. The other one says, you'll note the identical language, all checks, drafts, or orders for the payment of money, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness issued in the name of the corporation. I will admit that clause was new here. Shall be, but then back to verbatim copy from before, shall be signed by such officer or officers, agent or agents of the corporation, and in such manner as shall be from time to time determined by resolution of the board. Absence of such determination by the board, such instruments shall be signed by the treasurer and countersigned by the president or the vice president of the corporation. However, any expenditure in excess of $200 shall be unauthorized and invalid unless first approved by resolution of the board. Neither one of these look to me like they read on discretionary expenditures by board members in any way whatsoever. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure what determination a previous board made. But I don't think that my read now matches any interpretation that one of these gives the board, individual board members, any sort of discretionary expenditure. Again, I'll stand by my claim that I think that is a thing that exists, but that's a thing that exists by virtue of the budgeting process that we went through in December. Is there any more discussion or debate?
I agree with your interpretation.
There's one other thing I pasted in chat because I think it matters for what we're about to do. The very last article in the bylaws is entitled Amendment, and it consists of exactly one sentence, which is the one I pasted here. These bylaws may only be altered, amended, or repealed by an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the full board at any semi-annual, regular, or special meeting of the board. We're definitely at a regular meeting of the board. I believe that this means that we've got a 2/3 threshold to pass. My read of the phrase "the full board" means that it's 2/3 of our 10 total current members, which puts the threshold at 7 regardless of today's quorum. But I think we've got all of us here anyway, which puts the threshold at 7 given today's quorum. Anything else before we vote?
Question.
Mhm.
Regarding the difference between 2 and 5, are we looking to leave those as is with 2 and 5 for the purposes of this day? Or is one of them going to go to 200, or is one of them going to go to 500 to even that possible oddity out?
The motion on the table is to adopt the version that had 200 and 200.
Duly noted.
All right. So the motion on the table is to adopt the named draft.
Sorry.
Oh,
Alan's
Giles,
hand is
sorry.
up.
Nope, Giles, go ahead. Yep.
I have not been able to track this conversation. Are you making bylaws changes at the moment in this vote, or are
Yep.
you? Okay.
Yep.
Do you need to catch me up to make this vote? I will abstain otherwise.
I don't know.
Okay.
Can I give a
the
nutshell
answer is I
version?
don't know. What?
Can I give a nutshell version for him?
Go for
Sure.
it. I can listen right now.
Okay, so basically it's everything that already was with fixed spelling. There is one change of substance where there was a difference between two numerals that seemed to speak about the same thing. They were illustrating 200 and 500. The 500 has been shifted to 200, and that will make checks that go out over 200 necessarily going through the portal of the treasurer, etc., And beyond that, it is purely cosmetic for the changes. Does
So I
anybody
understand
add
practically
to that?
how we've been operating. We have ceded authority to producers to write checks in the order of like 10,000 for things like green latrines. Are we out of what we're supposed to be doing here by these bylaws, or?
My interpretation is that by virtue of our budget approval process, we've been approving those expenses, although admittedly, you and I and others have talked about the need for more carefully considered controls. But I think, like there has been a board resolution involved in establishing a budget for the events. And I think to the extent that we're controlling for expenditures against those approved budgets, we're absolutely operating within the parameters here.
So these are
Pages-
limits to what you could write a check that is not a board approved thing. Is that
Correct. Not
Okay.
backed by board resolution is the language of the bylaws. Magic.
I would say that I agree that this doesn't change anything that's been approved as a resolution of the board in a budget. I also don't agree that this is actually a semantic change, because anything more than 500 or more than 200 is going to be more than 200 and invalid. And this is saying that those checks are not valid. So you're technically not writing a check if you're writing a $201 check. It doesn't say anything about writing two $199 checks. I think the language is not great. Like structuring is still possible, but realistically, I'm just trying to do this to make it so the bylaws are interactive again, and we're not stuck, and we can make changes that are actually impactful. So that was my intent with this proposal.
Harley.
This is not a discussion item. This is when you get to the point that you're going to vote, can you restate the motion that you're presenting, since it has now changed a few times?
Yep, can do.
Let me pull up the file in the drive. All right.
It's the January 16th, 11:31 a.m. version.
Named proposal candidate 1, right?
Yep.
All right.
That last change was to make it dated to today, because we didn't do this
Oh,
last time.
got it. So it's not the one named proposal candidate
It's the
1.
one after proposal 1, which was
Right,
your last meeting.
Got it. Okay. Yep. All right. So the motion on the table is to adopt the bylaws as amended in the file, the Google Drive file called what? 2025-02-19 INW bylaws proposal. Specifically, the version in version history at January 16th, 11:31 a.m. Which version includes primarily textual changes and changing the one occurrence of $500 to $200 to match the floor, which we were governed by in the first place.
Can you drop that link in the chat?
Sure. Yep. There's the link. I'm gonna, so yeah, I'm
'Cause
not
this is
gonna,
public. Yeah.
by virtue of pasting this, I'm not gonna change the current permissions, but we'll solve the problem of getting everyone a copy. I mean, this will be, I guess, here's the short version. This will be published. This will be published in the shared drive, assuming adoption, and it won't be relevant otherwise. Okay, so I think that's the motion. Because the threshold is 2/3, let's go straight to a counted vote. Please use the hand up button to vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. I see 1, 2, 3. Did my hand just go down? Yeah, that's funny because I talked. Okay. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. I see 8. Hands down, everybody. All opposed, please put your hand up now. I see 1. All right. 8-1. The amended bylaws are adopted. Giles.
Just for my own edification, Marley, were you willing to explain your no vote?
Pretty sure I just did.
Yeah, no obligation.
Okay.
All right, nonsense. You're next. Clean up historical policies.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different policies that exist in our drive. The primary one that I'm concerned about talks about bans. It's currently linked as a part of our code of conduct. Although I'm not totally confident to what degree we should consider it a part of the code of conduct on the website. It includes substantively basically much of the same content that we folded into in more elegant and I think complete ways in the membership suspension policy. So I'm interested in discussing if there's anything that we should do about these policies in terms of labeling them like no longer active, actively voting to remove them, etc. Like I'm not totally sure what the right process is for handling these. And there's a couple of other policies in the drive that reference like some historical conduct committee that existed in 2017. So none of these are labeled as inactive or not functional policies. And I wanted to propose this as something for us to have a conversation about what we want to do about it.
I have one point that I will make. So, well, let me start with, I am super duper duper in favor of cleaning up and keeping our policies self-consistent as we go along. I know that that's a thing that takes lots and lots and lots of conscious effort, and I'm glad we've got a sponsor for it. There is one thing that I seem to recall from the bylaws, which is that specifically our code of
changes to the code of conduct have to be approved by the membership. But this is a draft policy. This part is a policy. It's explicitly called out as a policy. It's linked on that page and it's labeled a draft. So I don't actually know the distinction. Like something that I don't understand yet, would love if someone with expertise or knowledge could explain, is the website code of conduct the official document? Is there a PDF somewhere of our official code of conduct? There are some versions of it that exist, and how do we determine what the right one is? Sorry, not to interrupt. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you interrupted with my punchline. I also wonder all of these things. I think that, well, I suspect that what we need to do is just kind of do our own amateur forensics to kind of get to the best understanding we can recreate from history, and then act in good faith moving forward from there. I think the obvious places that I think we probably have an obligation to look is to scan through prior minutes, make sure that the previous board didn't make a formal pronouncement on this sort of thing. But then to the extent that there are drafts of documents lying around or in various states of publication, I think if there's not a PDF in the community drive that contradicts the HTML on the website, I feel like the HTML on the website is way out there in front in terms of most probably the most authoritative thing that we've published on the matter. And I kind of casually believe that that's the actual current state, but I admit that I have not carefully searched the community drive to make sure that we don't have a different published instrument somewhere. Other thoughts on that? Like I'm kind of making up an approach here, but I think that that's the usual best we can do as a board. Jimmer.
Yeah, just as a layman in the process of how you're trying to find like a specific wording, is there anything wrong with or that you're looking to improve about the stuff that's already on the website that is standing as our sort of current public statement on the matter?
The concern is more that there is a reference to a draft policy that's linked there, and it's not clear if we take that page to be our code of conduct, then we can't remove that draft policy without vote of the membership. So having an understanding of what the actual code of conduct is, having version history or knowledge of edits that were made to that page, so we can say this is an after the fact addendum that was meant to provide clarity to users of what would happen if the code of conduct was violated and is not part of the code of conduct, it's just on the same page, et cetera, et cetera. That will just help us with this process of cleanup and understanding and moving things around. It's not that the code of conduct has a problem or needs to be changed. It's like this specific policy concern.
Yeah, I'm back in the queue to say that it does seem like attempting to delete the warning and ban policy link from the code of conduct is a change to the code of conduct. I don't think making a change to the warning and ban policy that is labeled draft in the code of conduct that we're talking about, including deleting all of the content in it and saying our final draft is empty, or our final draft is this new thing that has been developed now. Like, to me, that doesn't feel like what the bylaws intend by the code of conduct requiring membership vote to amend.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I highly doubt that section was part of the original code of conduct. I think that the code of conduct existed and there was no policy. I mean, Marley would know more. I would love to hear. This is my suspicion. Code of conduct existed. At some point, policy on what to do with violations of the code of conduct was lost. People proposed a new methodology and then they slapped it up on the website. I can't substantiate that. That's my guess. Obviously, that's a convenient belief because it would make our lives easy. But yeah, if we wanted to just change the contents of that, I feel like if we're holding ourselves to a strict belief about everything on that page, emptying that document and refilling it is not as strong as I don't know how we get to that after holding
Attainable.
ourselves to that. I don't know how we get to that being okay if we're holding ourselves to that strict of a definition of what that page contains. But maybe I'm being too obtuse.
You may have already made this point, Nonsense, but I want to underscore it, and I'm going to paste this text from the bylaws in chat. It does say the following decisions are always reserved for a member vote, approving substantive modifications to the code of conduct. I think maybe removing a link to a draft policy is incredibly arguably not substantive.
I would agree with that.
I think it's hard to call it a draft policy when we've been making people agree to it for our events for the last 5 years, this particular policy. So
does it change your interpretation if it says the word draft in the code of conduct? Like, there's a link in the code of conduct to a document with draft in the name.
I'm aware of it,
Okay.
but in practice, we've been saying in order to buy tickets to our events, you have to agree to this policy, and we've been banning people appropriately based on that policy. This is also something that has been brought up multiple times in the last 2 to 3 years, that this is a draft policy and we have to fix that. So we've kind of put ourselves in a catch-22 with this, but we have been using this as if it's not a draft policy. So I know that's not the answer that you want to hear, but we have both been linking it as a draft policy and using it as not a draft policy.
Can I ask? I want to ask a clarifying question. I thought that we, this is just something I don't know. I thought that we asked people to agree to the code of conduct, not necessarily this specific policy. Is your argument that because that policy is included on this page, that it's part of what we're asking them to agree to, or is there something I'm just missing?
We link to this policy when we say you have to agree to our code of conduct policy.
And that policy means this document that's linked. Is that right?
Yes.
Got it.
It's linked using may language. Additionally, it says details of the manner INW may take additional action to bar members from attending or volunteering at events. I think, like, I'm having a lot of trouble, like even taking precedent into account. Also, I'm having a lot of trouble spotting unambiguous precedent that we have been following this draft policy. Like, I see both examples where maybe we have, but I also see examples where we haven't at all. So I'm struggling to come to the position that the institution has de facto adopted this. There's hands up in the queue. Huck and Jimmer.
Yeah, so my perspective is that taking a link to the draft out of the code of conduct doesn't actually make policy not policy. It doesn't make our code of conduct not our code of conduct. It's simply removing the link to the draft because the draft is maybe not the best representation of actual policy, and it can also perhaps bind us in ways that we don't necessarily want to be bound. So I think that it's a good idea. I also think that it's non-substantive because until we change something about the code of conduct, then it's still going to be the governing policy.
Jimmer.
Yeah. Considering that, would there be another option, Marley? Like, what would be a different way to go about this? Because it's and being brought up to be thought about.
I suggested a year ago that we actually formalize our policy. So I'm not sure why you're asking me about a different way to do it.
To that effect, I think we're going about that nonsense. What status is that in? I'm sure that's on your table in some
We
form.
formalized this in the last board meeting. Our membership suspension policy.
So to that effect, can we link directly to that as the thing?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's what I would like to do. I think that's the thing I'm trying to get clarity from this group on is that something
Actually,
that we're comfortable with? Yeah.
if we have done that, if we have passed that, if we have achieved consensus in last month's meeting, I would put forward that we should do it exactly that. May I make that motion?
Yeah, so that would be a motion to amend the proposal to change the link to the policy that we approved.
What he said. Yes.
Second.
Yeah, and there was no.
Well, we've got a motion and a second, but that doesn't mean we can't have discussion. Magic, your hand is up, and then nonsense, I believe, join the queue.
I would assert that having approved with quorum during the special meeting, we've already passed this motion, and it's like updating references to adopt a new link that was approved by a board resolution is included in the last one, but I'm happy to vote on it again now in favor if that's what we want to do. Said more simply, we already did it, in my opinion, and it doesn't make sense to like change a link as a whole new board vote.
Is your position, just to clarify, is your position that we already amended the code of conduct?
Yeah, by approving the new, by approving the draft, basically. Changing the link to the approved version in places it's referred to is within the scope of that. But there's a motion on the floor. We can vote on it again. I don't suspect it would fail or We
No,
voted.
nonsense. You began to speak and then
Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of things. One is, this was approved in the January board meeting, not the special meeting, just for records. I don't think I made an original motion to be amended yet, which is fine. I'm happy if we move forward with the motion that exists. Yeah, and I also am not certain that this is, but that said, I'm not sure that this is, it's not clear to me that this is even a motion worthy decision, but if we think it is, then I'm happy to go that route.
I only pressed it that way because I'm finding that your inquiry sounded like you were asking for sort of consensus or a vote or the opinion of the room in a way about the hanging chat of the link that goes to a draft that is no longer in service, so to speak, such that we have replaced it. We do have a new concept, and I think that the consensus generally is yes, please point to the new one that we've already approved. So, yeah.
Magic.
I don't see any record of this vote happening in the January regular meeting. Just a scheduled conduct committee charter review.
We don't have
Just a special
updated
meeting.
notes yet.
We don't have updated notes from the January meeting.
Yeah.
That was what we discussed first when we were talking about meeting minutes.
It was in the special meeting, wasn't it? It wasn't in the regular meeting.
It was not the special meeting, it was the charter exclusively.
Well, we have a recording of the January meeting. I suppose we could refer to that.
Nonsense. Do you happen to have a link to the document that you think we?
Yes, I can get it, perhaps.
The updated minutes are saved down in the folder if you want to read them. They're a copy of January. It's not the link that Feynman set out.
And I have a record on this document that states that we voted into policy on January 15th, 2024.
Yeah, it was the draft good, bad standing policies. Magic moved, Best Star seconded a motion to adopt the membership suspension policy as submitted in writing. And the ayes
Consistent with my memory.
and the ayes carried it. So so as soon, yeah, so like it is definitely an adopted draft document of a policy that sounds like, yeah, nonsense. Go.
It's not when you say adopted draft, you mean?
I shouldn't use the word draft. It's an
Yeah,
adopted
okay.
policy draft. It is policy copy that was adopted. Marley.
So the membership suspension policy, is that what you're referring to as the new code of conduct?
Nope. We're referring to the membership suspension policy as the new, let me use the exact word from the code of conduct, as the replacement for the previous warning and ban policy draft that's linked to from the code of conduct.
Okay.
Jimmer.
So this would be the document that ultimately replaces the one that is currently the one that we're trying to sweep away. Okay.
Yep.
That sounds completely logical, even though it was convoluted on the way there. And thank you for going through the process and providing the documentation. Yeah, looks
Sure.
good to me.
All right. So the motion on the floor is to update the link in the code of conduct to link to that policy, which was adopted in January. Hearing no additional debate or discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Okay. Next on the agenda, and Jimmer.
Sorry, I have to share the comedy with Nonsense's Room. Thank you for the great videography that is bringing tears of laughter to Jess. That is all.
Sorry, it's just like got AI, so it keeps zooming in.
It's like a TikTok camera.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right. Next, Marley, do you want to talk about articles of incorporation?
I thought you said you didn't want to do it.
Well, I'm certainly not the whole board.
Well, I didn't prepare anything since
Okay.
your comment. And can somebody please stop clicking in the agenda? It moves it every time you do that.
All right. Magic, do you want to talk about community forum research?
No, I don't think we have anything. for
Okay.
that.
Next up is onboarding plan. I guess I mostly just want to make sure that we've got ourselves situated around what the plan is. I think we're convening on Saturday, March 15th
That is correct.
at 10
At
a.m.
my house.
at Beth Star's house.
But there will be an
And-
online component as well if you can't make it to my house.
Great. And we will be onboarding 3 new board members.
Yay! Who are all present at this meeting. Thank you, y'all.
Yay. And we'll get document packets to all of you between now and that onboarding for you to review and click in DocuSign. And then we'll convene, we'll onboard you, and you'll be active board members for the March meeting.
Sounds good to me.
Great. Jimmer.
Yeah, with love. Any concept for length of time? There's a really groovy sort of plan that has to do with some event committee positive production happening the evening of that same day. So is it possible that I might get away by 6 p.m.?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Thank you.
Like, yeah, your obligation will end well before then, I would say. And then we may, whoever has the time and spoons, we may do something social, but that'll be casual and missable and
Awesome sauce. Just
perfect. All right. That was all that I had written down in new items. Does anybody have, we should go back and do minutes. Does everyone want to take 2 minutes? Shall we do an Amazon meeting? Giles and maybe others in the room could school me on this. Let's sit quietly at our desks and read the January minutes and think of any amendments that we may need, or be prepared to express your approval otherwise.
Jake, can you not make changes into the minutes, please?
Sorry, is there a link for the document in review? I know I read some minutes recently, but I don't know if we're talking about the same ones.
Yeah, I'll paste a link.
Look anywhere.
So I think it's not that. So I think it is. If somebody already has a link, feel free to paste it. Otherwise, yeah, otherwise I'll have it in just a second.
Magic, what's your comment on past meeting minutes?
The comment is there should not be two sources of truth, one of which is named as if it's the authoritative one and the other's named as a copy that's up to date. That's pretty confusing.
Well, I'm the secretary, so mine is the authoritative one. Does that help?
No, not particularly, but I understand what you're saying.
And also, you are making comments in the actual live minutes right now, so can you stop making changes to the minutes doc? Thanks.
Yeah, it was as a response to the meeting live asking about committee updates. If you edit this in a way where it's not a docx and it's just a native Google thing, then it won't have the conflicts that you're seeing, for what it's worth. But
I don't create the agenda, so just can you save a copy locally? Thanks.
We can talk about workflows at onboarding. All right. I just pasted a link for those of you that needed it.
Okay. Drat.
Anyone need more time? Magic.
I'd like clarity on the diversity and inclusion section. I recall passing the 10 tickets and 5 vehicle passes for critical and 5 tickets for C compression, but there's a second bullet point that says 15.
Total tickets, 10 plus 5. That was the initial motion.
$15 entry tickets and 5 vehicle passes. Can we make that clarification so it's not in conflict?
It's not in conflict. The initial motion did not include the vehicle passes. It was just the 15 tickets.
Sorry, what I'm requesting from the minutes is a source of truth on what passed.
The initial motion was for 10 tickets for critical plus 5 tickets for C compression. Then it was amended to include 5 vehicle passes and $100. 10 plus 5 is 15 tickets. It doesn't say 15 tickets for critical. It says 15 tickets.
I do see value in having the past motion as a, like, not stated in terms of stacking amendments, but in terms of the final motion that was passed, for what it's worth.
Yeah, if it's expanded with full sentence structure, it might simply clarify everything to that effect.
Can I edit this document, Marley, or do you want to edit it? Or
Please
do you
do
just
not
think-
edit the document.
Yeah, for sure. Magic. That's the job of the secretary at all times. Yeah.
Anyone have any other amendment requests? We did lose the record of the original motion in that edit. I don't remember who our mover was.
Chuck made the amendment. I don't know who the mover was. Yeah. I think Marley or me? I think Marley. I can check the version history.
Chuck was the mover.
Okay. All right. Assuming we restore the mover for the primary motion and the amendment, anybody have any other amendments to propose? Hearing no additional amendments or discussion, we'll consider this amended set of meeting minutes for the January 2025 meeting approved. Moving on, did everybody have a chance to take a look at the special meeting minutes?
I think it's a closed meeting, so not everyone can look.
Did board members all take a look?
Yep.
One thing, actually, I did want to double check our attendees list. Tuck and Sean, were you there or no?
No.
That was a no from Sean.
I'm not sure, honestly. Does the record say I was there?
It doesn't, but I think the record was reconstructed from memory.
Okay.
Sean, I remember you being there, but not Tuck.
I was there.
You were there when I was there.
Marley.
My bad.
I'd just like to clarify, we do provide closed meeting minutes to the public. We will redact them if there's something private.
Any amendments or discussion?
There are motions that aren't really, well, no discussion for me.
Magic, do you need another venue for discussion? Like, did you say no discussion? It sounded like, I don't want to press this issue if I shouldn't, but it sounded like perhaps you had some feedback that you didn't want to pursue in this venue. Okay. All right. Last call for amendments or discussion.
Marley's hand is up.
Marley.
No, I just haven't lowered it. Sorry.
All right. Hearing no amendments, we'll consider these adopted as well. All right. And then we're on to officer updates. I don't have a president update. Vice president, do we have anything?
None for me.
Hey, treasurer.
Yeah, you noticed it in the thing, but so we've gotten the connection between the interest-bearing accounts that we talked about setting up, I think 2 board meetings ago. We've transferred our first $100,000 over there, and that went fine. So we will dial in our cash reserves that we keep locally and basically earn our interest over there. So that is set up well. Main focus that we need to kind of sort out going into critical is any updates to the policy and how we want to basically administer funds and who pays and what sort of bit. So we need to kind of sort out what guardrails we want in place for that event. So that'll be our next. I think it is reasonable to say that for the next board meeting, we will have a plan together for that. Other than that, we haven't spent a lot of money in the last little bit, so we're fine on accounting and those kind of pieces. But next board meeting, we should actually have the quarterly cash position and pieces in place.
Magic.
I'd like to include the producers and associate producers in the conversation about capital controls, but I do agree it's something we should pursue.
Are you suggesting, I had assumed our working thing would be during our treasurer meetings that we would propose and sort of talk through a policy. Do you want them involved earlier than that timing?
We can bring a draft to them, but I wouldn't want to vote on a policy without their included conversation and input.
Agreed. Do we think, just kind of thinking through policy, do we need a board vote for that policy, or is that something that we think the committee can do itself?
I think you as the treasurer can generally do that as long as it's not in conflict with the bylaws, but I think anything with the board vote would be much more secure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That all makes very good sense to me. The one other thing that I'll add, and this isn't because I'm forecasting officer churn, but everybody remember that we have a chance to shore up officer positions at onboarding. We do that annually. And so I think, the other thing about thinking too hard about this between now and March 15th is what if we decide to shuffle roles or whatever? Yeah, I'm not trying to oversell that, Giles. I think you're fine. You're doing fine as the treasurer. All right. Marley, do you have a secretary's update?
I'm just going to throw in the ride update in there.
Great.
I gave an initial announcement in a couple of different groups, the Multicultural POC Neighborhood Facebook group, Discord group, the Black Burners Project Facebook group, and the BIPOC Burners Facebook group. I reached out to Spaceman. Although there was a little bit of a hiccup there, I did not hear back from Reboot. So Reboot, maybe you can tell me if you were okay with what we talked about. But I was going to have Spaceman put an initial question on their form that just asked if they were interested in hosting a camper. And with that, I'll do some matching for campers as part of our resources that we will provide. I reached out to Moki and then had a chat on Slack with Reboot, but I know that Reboot's been busy with some other stuff, so I didn't hear back from him as to whether or not I could go forward with that. And then I'm reaching out to a couple of other groups that'll be rangers and fire camp to see if they are also okay with doing some mentoring if people are interested in checking out those areas. And Giles, did you have something?
Yeah, I just, in terms of spacement forms, I know those have already been put out. Are you asking for changes to that current form, or what's the ask?
Yeah, I haven't seen, so I don't know. I'd asked Moki to follow up with Reboot since I hadn't heard. So this was a couple of weeks ago that this conversation happened. So I don't know if the question was added to the form or not, but I think Josh has a response.
Yeah. Sorry, Marley. I did talk to Moki and give the thumbs up through Moki, and I failed to pass it on to you. Sorry about that. I did want to talk through some other aspects of that with you, and I am sort of marshaling my thoughts. But as for modifying the form, that's already a go.
Okay, good. So then the follow-up to it's just a one question on the spacement form that basically says, hey, would you be interested in like helping out? And then there'll be like a matching form, and it'll mimic what the org sent out, which basically helps people identify their interest in terms of like what kind of camps they would be interested in, how much time and effort, etc. So that's it for that update.
Great. Thank you, Marley. All right. And at this point, I guess I know there's some events committee updates, and then after that, we'll throw it open to any other committees that would like to give an update.
Hey, that's me.
Yep.
Hang on, I gotta get my list. One moment. I was not ready. I was not prepared. Okay. I'm gonna do these not in the order that I listed them. Asset manager role. We have 6 or 7 applicants, and we have a subcommittee that is going to do interviews. That is me, Feynman, and Dookie from DPW. And we'll have more information on that at the next meeting, I'm guessing. My next step is to actually find a day that we can all 3 do interviews. So that's the thing that I'm working on with that. Sorry, my cat is walking on the table, which is why my camera is wiggling so much. C compression. The last events committee meeting, we had a pretty intense conversation about sea compression and the location, and it seems that there is we didn't take a vote on whether to move sea compression or not. We decided to have a subcommittee that is going to start helping with the site search. So now there are a whole bunch of more people who are interested in looking for new sites for sea compression and kind of doing that. Jimmer, do you want to talk about that more than that? I mean, I don't know if there's more details to share yet.
Right. So specifically, I am still trying to get those last 3 emails of people. So any assistance on that you can give me? I know you have that list.
Who are you missing?
Mark, and I think it was it Rara? Oh, somebody with an R.
Oh, Jenna. You didn't have Jenna.
There's no R in Jenna, but there are some consonants in her name.
I think she was Jenna Rowe on that meeting, so I can understand your confusion.
All right. And the other one was Dirt Magnet. Those are 3 emails that I don't have, and I could probably just do Dirt Magnet. But
yeah, Dirt Magnet at Ignition. The other so the thing that I get for the emails actually blocks the full email. I only get that they have an email. I don't get the full email. So I know I can ping Jenna, and I can ping Mark, but Mark's on. If you want to ping Mark on Slack, he's in the events committee Slack. You can just ask him but I think you might have already done that. But yeah, Jenna is not anything yet, and I can ping her for sure.
Thanks. Yeah. And to that effect, to speak to that, do you want to talk about the sort of consensus to what people were feeling, or do you want me to breathe a thought on it?
If you want to, I wasn't really going to bring that up in this meeting yet. I just wanted to give the board the heads up that we are looking for a new site and that people are really looking that direction. But if you want to give more info, I mean, that's up to you, man.
It's okay. It's cool. You know, it dovetails into what Marley's going to get into with the acculturation pretty reasonably, because we're talking about how we don't need to do all the things at sea compression because we have other things going on that take care of some things. So Basically, the question of what is the vibe of sea compression was a topic of conversation, and the general consensus was let's make it more fun and easygoing as opposed to intense.
Right. Aiming for having a event, because again, we have 12 to 1,500 people attending our event, not 8,000. So maybe we start building an event that aims toward a population that's attending that's more like 1,200 and see where that gets us venue wise, etc.
Right. And so
Anybody have any questions about that? Fantastic. Thanks, Jimmer. Okay, and then the final point from the events committee meeting is the one that I had the least education on and is probably going to be the most contentious. So I'm going to try to just go to my references. Hold on a sec. There was a motion that passed, and I'm going to read it to you. Well, I guess I'll give you some highlights first. We've had a conversation about, and I think all of you are somewhat familiar with the fact that we have had some challenges with the fire marshal in Seattle in particular, trying to bring fire to our events within Seattle city limits. And it's been a constant battle. And Jimmer went way more extensively into that in our events committee, not this last one, but the one before. And I don't need to give you guys all the details. It's sort of frustratingly impossible to follow the rules to have fire art and safe fire performance based on what the fire marshal has for rules and regulations and the governing bodies have for rules and regulations is the TLDR. So the events committee had a very long conversation about this. Jimmer does have a path forward with a connection that is a pyrotechnics expert, which sort of sidesteps some of the regulations in a way that it seems to be really promising, and that human has agreed to help us with that. So we have that avenue of possibility. But the motion that I'm talking about, and I'm going to read this, I move the events committee recommend, which is what we're doing right now, the board directs the Ignition Northwest lawyer to investigate suing Seattle on the issue of fire permits. So basically they're asking, the events committee is asking the board to go to the lawyer and ask what are our options, our legal options on this, because we have tried to work with the fire marshal in every way we can find out. And what we've basically been told is you need this license. And in order to get this license, you have to do this thing, which is impossible to do. Giles.
How do I want to phrase this? Who proposed that motion?
It was proposed by Beep Beep and seconded by Khan, I believe. And the events committee did vote on it. So you got to remember it was.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand some of the context. Was Mike Dodds in this meeting? Just so I know as well.
He certainly started this conversation, right?
I know.
Yeah, and he and Jimmer had talked about the class, and I know you guys are still emailing, right, Jimmer, about the class education and the.
At this point, I have proposed what I've proposed, and it has come up to the blockage of he seems to have multiple goals, and one of his goals that frustrates me is attacking the government in a way. I don't see the Seattle city government as the problem. I see I see the structural problem, but I also see structural fixes that don't require us suing, which is why I was the single vote against bringing the lawyer into things. Because honestly, the proposal that I have, which is getting fleshed out, the word impossible has been used hyperbolically, I must say. And to that effect, there are paths to success. And if we can join together as a team and create the setting, we can create that success. And that's what I carry as a possibility through the proposal.
Yeah. And so I think again, this is not going to be very clear. This is not my opinion, right? I am trying to bring to you, the board, the recommendation that the committee voted upon. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm just telling you what was said, and I'm bringing the proposal. I think that the the people that voted on this and said yes to this are a lot of humans who are pretty frustrated and have tried to go the correct pathway, doing the things that they were told they would be, if you do this, then you get the thing you want. And it has been very frustrating and has not been productive. So I think that there is a good portion of that population that has tried the pathway that Jimmer is talking about and have been very frustrated with not getting results over the last half a decade. That being said, this is my opinion, and this is how I feel about it. I think that it is reasonable to ask the lawyer to do a little bit of investigation for us and tell us like what the options are. I personally suspect we're not going to get very far with that, but I think it is worth looking into if there's something that we aren't understanding about it. I also think that Jimmer going along his path at the same time, like I think both of these solutions are good. I still think there's someone that should be doing the thing that Jimmer is doing, which is, okay, you want us to have a pyrotechnics expert babysitting our fire people, fine, we have one. Also, this pyrotechnics expert is willing to help us design education so that we can do the things you want us to do in order to get this fire performance license. We can do it the way that is still written down and see how it goes at the same time talking to the lawyer and seeing what our other options are. Feynman.
That's kind of where I am too, is I think that exploring both avenues makes an awful lot of sense. To kind of make the let's go talk to the lawyer thing a little more concrete, like I imagine an hour or 2 or 3 of attorney time. So think $1,000 or less will get us an answer to the question, what would it look like to sue Seattle? And do we have a single shot at getting anything we want by doing such a thing? I think we can get that question answered. And I think at that point we can all have, like, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. And it totally is a reasonable, inexpensive option that with a high degree of likelihood will get us what we want, right? Or maybe we'll come back with a slightly more dismal picture, but we'll have facts or closer to facts. We'll have calibrated estimates on our side and can kind of continue the conversation from there.
Magic.
I'm pretty aligned with that. I think hearing the frustration coming from the events committee and understanding that. Also, I don't think that we really have the expertise to direct the lawyer to sue Seattle, but I do agree that we should ask them what our options are and we should pursue Jimmer's options in parallel. And maybe that ends in suing, I don't know, but engaging with the lawyer would be what I would recommend, hearing that recommendation from the events committee.
Yeah, I'm sort of the opinion, it can't hurt to ask. We're not going to court. We're not we're not firing the gun. We're just talking about what would it take to load it, right? I think it's better to know. And even if the answer we come back with is there's no chance and here are the 5 reasons why, then we know, okay, now we need to really pour resources into the path that Jimmer has because this is the only one. Jimmer.
Yeah, even in the meeting, I concurred with the sentiment generally, and I really sort of performatively put my one vote against it, seeing the energy, and nonsense to your point of is it an act of pure hostility? Not generally, and I don't think it is. But the energy in the room was rough. So I would say we definitely need a layer in between that does soften the blow. In the scope of things, Feynman, because I am sort of briefed and on a lot of zones of it, I am happy to meet with Scott to brief him on it if Beth would welcome me in that process so that I can sort of illustrate what I understand, because we need Mike Dodds's documents and all the here to that, this point right here has this quandary of catch-20 true, and that needs to be explained to maybe shorten up his research structure.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to
absolutely.
do
I
that.
think having a subject matter expert in the conversation with the lawyer would be real good. And I kind of feel like one of the other 3 should be involved, either Mike Dodds, Beep Beep, or Khan. And I'm happy to provide that layer in between them, then their hostility and the team, to be able to keep that civil, because I do think that they also do have a lot of really good information about what they have tried and hasn't worked and the things they have been told, right? I think that's an important humans to have in the conversation. Feynman.
I would add me and or Tuck to that delegation as well. But I am fundamentally aligned with having at least one of the two that have been actively in a battle of wits with the city, involved in the conversation, to be clear, with our attorney, in order to get the attorney briefed on what we believe the lay of the land is, just to get him armed with the facts that he needs in order to do some analysis.
Magic.
First, I'd like to include that in the seat compression budget, if that's an option. And secondly, I'm curious if this is only like predicated on the site search choosing only places in Seattle, and if there's other cities that are like, yeah, burn stuff, have some art. Maybe we just go there and hear that we're not welcome in Seattle Center or wherever in Seattle, as an option. But I still
Great
would
things about
like to honor-
Furion.
Okay, A, I love the idea of putting it in the seat compression budget. That's genius. Super down for that. B, I think that the site search committee is already looking outside of Seattle, without hesitation. It's not that we're never going to have an event in Seattle again, but there was a lot of conversation about what if it wasn't Seattle. But this is more of a long-term global issue for INW because, we do have fire performers in our that. So again, I love the idea of putting it in the seat compression budget with the idea, because that has been traditionally where we've had this challenge. But yes, I still think that they are not attached to keeping it in Seattle either.
Answering Feynman's message in chat, what are the odds of finding a non-Seattle site in the next 2 to 3 months? I ask also, what are the odds of having closure on a lawsuit in the next 6 months? Right.
Zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally fair. Yep.
I mean, I'm not even the thing that we haven't talked about, and I guess I probably should talk about this now since we're talking about seat compression a little bit, is I don't know if anybody's negotiated with Seattle Center for our contract this year. I haven't. And it was Boris. So we might not even have Seattle Center this year because we haven't talked with them. I don't think. Unless someone else has.
No, I can't contradict that. I can look up and see whether they think we had tentative dates for the year. I almost think maybe they did.
I thought we had a multi-year agreement with them that we had agreed last year for some tentative dates for this year. That's my recollection.
I vaguely recall that meeting also. Let me seek details.
Yeah, that can be offline now. I just was like, it occurred to me the other day. I was like, I don't know the answer to this question. I think we maybe have a right to first refusal, but I don't know when that's for, and I don't know. I don't even know who they would contact because Natasha was their contact. So anyway, that doesn't have to stay in this conversation, but something else to think about. Giles.
I mean, I emailed with them, but the comment I actually wanted to make is I'm not sure I'd be supportive of having the event back there at the last loss, right? So I don't know exactly whether that's an event committee decision or a board one, but anyways, it doesn't.
I don't think anybody in the events committee was excited about going back to Seattle Center. And I can tell you, having been there in this conversation in 2023 and the beginning of 2024, we didn't want to go back there either. Yeah, this year, but we could not find a place to do the thing we wanted to do for significantly cheaper. And we already had this contract. I'm not saying that throw good money after bad and all the other metaphors or whatever, but that's the thing we're stuck with is we couldn't find some place better than Seattle Center. But I think that you're in the majority when you say, why do we keep going back to Seattle Center? Like we all kind of feel that way. And, there's still a minority in the events committee that feels like there is a way to still make that event profitable in that location. But I think at this point that is the minority. But as I said, we didn't take a vote intentionally. We want to kind of go do the site search first, see what that subcommittee comes up with. And then we'll make a vote on, do we stay with Seattle Center or do we go with one of the other proposed sites that the subcommittee is working on?
What's the order?
Yeah,
Do you end up getting a producer in place? Or I don't actually understand the relationship between site search, producer selection, and go, no go on an event.
If I may, Alan, Magic just typed in there, we do have 6 minutes left. If we can table that curiosity for offline, I do support your learning about this in all ways, though, just to the effect of
Giles, just
time.
ping me. We can have a chat about it. I can update you.
Did we need progress on sending a delegation to talk to the attorney tonight?
No. We can do
Okay.
that offline.
Superb.
I mean, unless anybody says we shouldn't do it. That's the only
I think
thing I
we
need.
made progress on it. I
Yeah,
think we
as long-
have
as long as we
progress
have a
on you, and
tentative
thank
yes,
you
let's
for
do it.
participating.
Okay.
That's my time.
All right. Other committees.
We have
Asset manager update from events.
Yeah, Grants wants to say one thing.
I think Betstar, you did asset manager update. I think it was, we've got interviewers. We've got an interview subcommittee spun up to do interviews.
That
Okay.
is
And
correct.
Marley was
And
going
we
to
will-
speak to something that does dovetail off of what we were talking about pretty well from
Yeah.
Culturation.
Committee updates
Well,
as well.
I'm gonna skip the touchy feely part. We have a newbie picnic date thing that we need at least a temperature check on. So we've been directed to push forward with the newbie picnic by Marco, and so we've got funding. We've talked about that. We have locations identified. We're going with Woodland Park as our first choice, and we have backup Gaswork and Seward Park. The dates that we're looking at, we are looking at May this year primarily. So we would like to hear feedback on May 3rd as our first date, and our backups are May 4th and the weekend of May 17th/18th. So the date that we'd like to put forward as our first choice is May 3rd at around noon. Does anybody have any discussion about that? Likes or dislikes?
That seems like a good time of year for it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
works best for me, better than the later dates.
I don't
Okay.
see any major conflicts. I don't know of any events that are happening that weekend that would be a major conflict.
Okay, so do I need to make a motion for that since we've already had the money approved, or?
That
I'll make
no,
a motion that we put out a bid with the Seattle Parks Department for May 3rd. I think the official time slot is 8 to 2 at Woodland Park is our first choice. 3 to 10 at Woodland Park is our second choice. And we have 4 other slots, but we'll order them variously with Gasworks and Seward as our second and third choices on those dates and times.
I second. Sean, your hands up.
Sean is helping us with this. Go ahead, Sean.
You're on good. You're on mute, good man.
All right. Any discussion or debate?
Just to discuss, Sean and I worked sort of workshopped last night. So if his voice wasn't coming through, I can share. We did search and we found that the 3rd, the 17th, 4th, and 18th had a lot of open stuff. So it's a lot of open space. So yeah, I can't imagine anything else. So no more ads. Looks good.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Say aye.
Sean has
Aye.
rejoined.
All right.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right. Any other committee updates?
Yeah, just an announcement from the grant side of things. We're doing rolling admissions this year for grants. So your first chance is getting them in this month, and the grant committee will review them on the 27th. If not, then get them in by the specified deadline that Moki has on the form, and we will review them there. If we still have funds after that, given that we're kind of early this year, we will take late proposals, but there's no guarantee about spacement. So get your grants in early if you can.
All right. Other
And-
committee.
Just a quick question for Grant. Can I get a contact from Grant for RIDE you can just message me about who my contact will be.
Contact for what topic?
Right.
For anybody who wants to bring art, I'd love to send them your way to talk about the grant process.
Okay. Yeah. Feel free to give them my my contact. I'm happy to chat with them on that.
Superb. Magic.
Conduct and tech have updates.
Okay. Conduct.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we're in the process of contacting references for all conduct committee applicants. We're going to send out a voting poll to the community as a whole to get feedback on the applicants probably today or tomorrow. We have a scheduled plan where that poll is going to be out for 2 weeks, and then we will review the collective content from that information that we gathered from the interviews and from the poll. And then we'll make determinations about the final membership decisions for the committee. And we have a scheduled training that will bring those members up to speed on the 9th of March. Giles, I have a proposal to submit to you for financing and paying for that, which is already part of our approved budget. And for our normal operating activities, things have been relatively quiet. We had one report in December that we're not moving forward with because the reporter requested that we not take action, but keep their report as informational. And we have 3 ongoing historical reports that we've made, either we made decisions about or there were past decisions made about where we were following up with the reportees, one of which is on hold until we get new membership to review, because we don't believe that we can make the decision, the 3 of us group. So that's the current status of what's going on with the conduct committee and our current open caseload.
Magic.
Can you let the reporters know that that is on hold?
So for reportees, some of these are people that have been on the do not attend list for a long time, or they got stuck in the process. And so we don't necessarily currently have contact or communication with reporters. Like there was an initial decision made about this person, and this is more about the rehabilitation process. Oh, you said, I understand. So what I'm saying is reporters aren't waiting for a decision on this. These are old decisions, and we are working with reportees on rehab, and what reentry could look like for them, if at all. No decisions have been made. These conversations they happen consistently over time with people who have been put on the do not attend list. If they are collaborative, willing, interested in learning, et cetera, those kinds of things. And we're just in a position with one of them where we don't believe we can move forward with the 3 of us making any decisions about it. And so we need a wider group. So this is several of the holdovers from the past, we're not in direct communication with reporters, but if we were to bring this person back into the community or before we made a decision like that, we would need to talk to them. But we're not anywhere close to that right now.
Thanks.
Jimmer.
Just simple scheduling question for nonsense. What time of day can we know for March 9th?
Yeah, so this has been referenced a few different times, and I think it's on, if it's not on your calendar, I can add it, but it's from 10 to 4.
Thanks. Cheers.
Great. Anything else from conduct?
Everyone's invited to that 10 to 4, to that 3/9, 10 to 4 training if they'd like to, and I'll send that meeting invite out.
Wonderful. Thank you. Magic Tech.
Yeah. Let's see. Biggest update is that the fleet of RT29D radios have been ordered. They're still shipping. There's some question as to how they're getting shipped, but the company promised to pay any tariffs or avoid them somehow. So we'll find out. Right now we're $845 under budget. We also have a commitment from Sunburn to buy the remaining analog radios that we have for $3,000 plus shipping. So that puts us about half under budget. And then if we sell the repeater, we'll be net about 22% of budget or 78% under budget. We have 10 additional radios from 65 to 75. And instead of partial coverage of the shoulder mics, we have 100% coverage. So 75 shoulder mics available, and a few more spare batteries and other things. I think that's everything for the radios. I have some support from Rye on programming them, and I programmed some personal ones I bought of the same model today successfully and got them to work mostly. So I think they'll be pretty great once we get them patched up in just the right way. There was a question I had for the board about the community search, not the site search, but having a not Facebook place for people to talk about their events and stuff. Last meeting we discussed this and punted to the tech committee to have the tech committee decide that, and the tech committee decided to kick it back over here. So I think I want to narrow that scope a little bit. I just would like to be able to use the domain names for INW to set things up and configure them, but not necessarily announce them with comms, just to see if we can get a configuration that looks like it would be interesting to communicate to the community sometime in the next few months. I don't know if that needs a vote or not, or just a without objection sort of vote.
Does that mean you're thinking about opening up a Discord or opening up a forum on the website? I don't quite understand what you're stepping towards.
Yeah, it's research. It's trying out a few different things and seeing what seems like it might make sense. Also, we've got support from Roxy, who's been preparing some research, community research, but the tech committee was sort of not in agreement about how to conduct that. So I was proposing that I be permitted to use the domain names but not announce them to configure various options and then see if we can try them out and see if they make sense, because there's a chicken and the egg problem here where it's difficult to set things up and try them out when not able to configure them the way they would be.
I'll be comfortable with anything that Megaphone is comfortable with. That's my last word on it.
I'm down to communicate whatever you guys want to put out there.
This project has my support, and this feels cart before the horse to me. I'm still not clear what we're experimenting with, and to me, I totally understand the intention to not publicize these things, but to me, putting things on the internet in the organization's domain suggests organization sponsorship, and I don't understand what it is that we're sponsoring, which makes it hard for me to enthusiastically support that approach. I may be the only one in the room that's hung up on this.
No, you said what I said in different words. I think you said it well. Question is what exactly is being created there?
Withdraw the motion. It's okay. We're beyond time, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not a lot of energy to push forward if there's disagreement. I was just hoping for a unanimous.
Yeah,
and
let's workshop this
it's
one.
not.
It's a good line.
I'm not going to.
You're good. You're good. Yeah, thank you for what you're putting forward, for sure. But yeah.
Okay, that's everything from tech.
Okay. Any other committees before we adjourn? Any other business at all on any topic before we adjourn? All right.
The
Quick
minutes
question
not so
for the
far off
treasurer.
time would be.
Quick. I mean, I could probably offline this, but can I get to you for a check eventually having to do with some that stuff that's already allocated? Can I do that in the background for?
Yeah, send all payment requests right now are going through treasurer email. So just send it there with the details.
Okay, thank you.
I move to adjourn.
Started.
Yeah.
All right. Hearing without objection. All right, get out of here.
So, yep.
But
Good night, friends. Bye.
Bye, everyone.